let me introduce 15 key differences between the film The Shawshank Redemption and the original novella. Many call The Shawshank Redemption a life-changing film. But did you know? Some scenes in the movie make no sense when compared to the book. That's the nature of the movie industry. Big-budget films must focus on commercial success over logic. It's inevitable that some implausible elements are cleverly woven in. So, some touching scenes weren't in the book at all, or are totally different. If I had to pick just one difference, it's definitely the Marriage of Figaro. Once you know the truth, you might laugh out loud. It's nothing like what you probably imagined. The Figaro scene, Norton's suicide, and Tommy's death show exactly why movies can't always follow literature. This film, based on Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, the first novella in Stephen King's 1982 collection Different Seasons, was a box office failure when it was released in 1994. It was overshadowed by major hits like Forrest Gump, Legends of the Fall, Pulp Fiction, and The Lion King. It failed to recoup its production costs and didn't win a single Oscar. However, when the film was released on home video, it caused a sensation. In 1995, it became the most rented video in the United States. Even in America, it seemed that many people couldn't afford to go to the theater. Waves of emotional responses followed. As viewers watched the film on video or DVD, found hope, overcame hardships, and were inspired to begin a new chapter in their lives. The Shawshank Redemption held the #1 spot on IMDb for many years and has been hailed as one of the most beloved films worldwide. Stephen King praised the screenplay, calling it the best film adaptation of his work. But to me, there are more than a few disappointing parts. So now, let me introduce 15 key differences. First, Andy's physical appearance. In the film, Tim Robbins, who played Andy, stands at 6 feet 5 inches, 196 centimeters. He is even taller than Captain Hadley in the film. His listed weight at the time was around 86 kilograms, though on screen, he appears to be over 90. One film review noted Tim Robbins brought a unique presence to the character of Andy Dufresne, visually highlighting both his isolation and inner strength in prison. However, Robbins did not receive an Academy Award nomination for his role. It seemed that something was lacking in the eyes of critics. There's also a practical question. Could a man of his size really crawl through a very long and narrow sewage pipe, the equivalent of 5 football fields? In the novella, Andy is a short, neat little man with sandy hair and small, clever hands. He even wore gold-rimmed spectacles. Because Andy has to fight the sisters in prison, there is really no need for him to wear glasses. What about a small, delicate, and quietly charming actor who played Andy? All throughout the film, that thought never left my mind. Andy becomes an easy target for the sisters in Shawshank because of his small, gentle appearance. Though Andy looks small and cute, he is anything but weak. He never submits meekly to the sisters. Even though he's beaten and sexually assaulted, he refuses to break. He's not portrayed as someone who surrenders to violence or resigns himself to fate. He's depicted as a man with deep self-respect and unshakable inner strength. In the novella, Warden Norton orders a guard to crawl into the sewage pipe hole Andy used to escape. Prison guards are physically imposing, nothing like Andy's small frame in the story. Fortunately, Norton finds a guard named Rory Tremont, whose height and weight are closer to Andy's. When Tremont enters the hole, he's instantly overwhelmed by the stench and starts screaming in panic. Norton, unfazed, tells him to keep going.
Something smells awful, Warden.
Never mind that. Keep going.
Warden, it smells pretty bad.
I said, never mind.
Smells like shit. Oh, shit, my God.
The whole scene is so absurd that Red, watching from the sidelines, bursts into uncontrollable laughter. Red went on laughing and kicking his feet and holding onto his belly. Red couldn't have stopped if Norton had threatened to shoot him dead bang on the spot. I laughed so hard I had tears in my eyes when I read that part. What a remarkable writing style and sense of humor. It sparks the reader's imagination and paints scenes as vivid as a movie. It was a pleasure you could only experience in the novella. Because of laughing like a madman, Red is thrown into solitary confinement for 15 days. Then Red said, "I'd think about Andy Dufresne heading south in his own car, dressed in a nice suit. And I'd just have to laugh. I did that 15 days in solitary, practically standing on my head. Maybe because half of me was with Andy Dufresne. Andy Dufresne, who had waded in shit, came out clean on the other side and headed for the Pacific." This is what Red calls a stylish, enviable scene. Andy, in a white short-sleeved shirt and sunglasses, is driving a red sports car along the Pacific Coast Highway. Not the suit or ordinary car Red had imagined. It was a sports car, flying down the road in clothes that screamed freedom. As the scene was so perfect, it deserved a round of applause. Second, the emergency stash of $500. Andy sneaks in $500 when he enters Shawshank. This detail appears only in the novella. As a sharp former banker, he already understands that even in prison, money is power. This means Andy is not a man who gives up and wallows in despair. Andy doesn't think his life is over now. It shows Andy enters prison with a burning determination to survive, endure, and one day return to the outside world. According to Red's estimation, a single dollar on the outside is worth 20 inside Shawshank. By that math, Andy entered prison with the equivalent of $10,000 worth of power. Without that emergency $500, Andy might have ended up as just another corpse in Shawshank. His bold foresight, so sharply at odds with his delicate, refined appearance, catches the reader completely off guard. Third, the fate of Sister Boggs. In the novella, Andy takes matters into his own hands. After enduring repeated assaults, Andy makes Boggs half to death. According to Red, if Andy hadn't acted like that, Boggs would have eventually killed him. The situation grew so dangerous that Andy realized he wouldn't survive if he didn't take action. Unlike the film, there's no Captain Hadley swooping in to save the day. Boggs doesn't end up sipping through a straw in the prison infirmary like in the film. In the novella, Andy bribes Shawshank guards to deal with Boggs. The guards, underpaid and always looking for extra cash, were especially vulnerable to bribes. It cost Andy quite a bit. According to Red's estimate, 2 or 3 guards were likely involved, each receiving around $15. Since one outside dollar is worth 20 inside, that was a serious transaction. But the sister wasn't just Boggs. Other members continue to swarm Andy, drawn to his small frame and delicate, boyish looks. Andy fights back, gets beaten down, and suffers again and again. It becomes a brutal cycle of resistance and suffering. Fourth, the rock hammer and how long it was used. The rock hammer eventually becomes Andy's key to freedom. In the novella, when Andy asks Red to get him a rock hammer, he mentions that it would cost $8 on the outside. In the film, he says $7. Red, aware of Shawshank's inflated economy, suggests $10 with smiling a little. Have you got $10? $10 in Shawshank is no small sum. Andy said quietly, "I do." Another expense covered by his emergency stash. Red also makes it clear, if the rock hammer is ever discovered and his name comes up, their dealings would be over, and he'll send some fellows around to lump Andy up. The mood here is threatening. It is different from that in the movie. In the film, Andy came to Shawshank in early 1947, but in the novella, he enters in 1948. That same year, he gives Red $10 to purchase the rock hammer. 19 years later, in 1967, Andy buys a new one, this time paying $22. Reflecting the rise in inflation even within the prison's economy. He uses this second rock hammer for 8 years and escapes in 1975. In the film, Andy escaped in 1966, meaning he uses the tool for 20 years, from 1947 to 1966. However, in the novella, for 27 years, from 1948 to 1975. Where the rock hammer is discovered is also different. In the novella, the guard Tremont found the rock hammer. lodged next to the broken sewage pipe hole outside the wall of Andy's cell. In the movie, the police find the rock hammer in the creek at the end of the sewer pipe. It looks plausible, but in truth, the film's setup is a foolish bit of nonsense. There's no reason for Andy to have carried the rock hammer all the way to the creek. Fifth, the beer break. In the film, this memorable scene takes place in May 1949. In the novella, it happens in May 1950. In the film, the beer is shown as icy cold, but in the novella, it's described as piss warm. That's a bit of slang, but it suits Red's voice perfectly. On a spring day in May 1950, they were hauling the beer up to the roof of an isolated prison work site. No surprise, it wasn't cold. It's not like they had refrigerated trucks back then. Still, the cold beer in the film looks far more fitting. It even makes the audience feel as if they're enjoying a cold one too. In the novella, Red says that piss warm beer was the best beer of his entire life, because they like free men for those 20 minutes beer break. Exactly. The taste of beer depends on the feeling. What in the world could top the taste of that Black Label beer, guzzled straight from the bottle, sitting under the open sky, supplied by the hardest screw, Hadley in Shawshank? In the novella, unlike in the film, Andy specifically asks for 3 bottles of beer per co-worker as a reward. But Hadley, true to his stingy and authoritarian nature, cuts it down to 2 bottles per person. Still, in that time and place, 2 bottles of beer in the morning, on a prison rooftop, were nothing short of a miracle. From that day on, Andy is completely free from the torment of the Shawshank sisters. In the novella, the warden and Hadley warn the sisters that if any of you touch Andy, we will punish you. In the film, Hadley beats Boggs so badly he's sent to prison hospital, paralyzed, as payback for Andy helping him with his tax troubles. It's a clear message to the rest of the sisters. Sixth, Norton's term and his suicide. Unlike in the movie, in the novella, when Andy comes to Shawshank and when the beer break on the roof takes place, the warden is Stamos. A warden is a public official. In reality, it's impossible for a public servant to stay in the same post for 27 years. That's only possible in movies. In early 1959, when a bribery investigation begins, Stamos flees. 2 years prior to that incident, in 1957, Hadley took an early retirement due to a heart attack. This is a setting completely different from the film. In fact, Hadley is also a public servant. It's unrealistic for a government employee to stay in the same position for 27 years. In early 1959, a new warden and a new set of guards are assigned to Shawshank. Then, in the winter of 1963, Norton, a devout Baptist who quotes the Bible at every turn, takes office as the new warden. In the novella, Norton does not commit suicide. 3 months after Andy's escape, Warden Norton resigned. He becomes a broken man. Norton attends services at the Baptist church every Sunday, wondering how the hell Andy Dufresne ever could have gotten the better of him. Seventh, Brooks's breakdown and death. In the novella, Brooks also appears as a man institutionalized by Shawshank. As the prison librarian, Shawshank is his heaven. He bursts into tears when he has to leave Shawshank, because the outside world is terrifying to him. He eventually dies a natural death in a rest home for the poor. In the novella, there is no crow, no incident where he holds a knife to a fellow inmate's throat, and he does not hang himself in a halfway house. Still, the film's interpretation of his character feels compelling. Eighth, the Marriage of Figaro. In the film, Andy plays an LP record and broadcasts Mozart's opera, The Marriage of Figaro, through the prison loudspeakers, sending its soaring voices across Shawshank. The inmates pause and listen, as if spellbound. This brilliant idea doesn't appear in the novella, yet many viewers are captivated by Red's narration in this scene. To this day, I still don't know what those Italian women were singing about. The truth? I don't want to know. Some things are better left unknown. I like to think it was something so beautiful, so full of pain and longing, that it couldn't be put into words. Their voices soared higher than anyone in that gray place had ever dared to dream, like a beautiful bird that flew into its cage and shattered the bars. And for one brief moment, every man in Shawshank felt free. The narration is so achingly beautiful, and the music layered beneath it makes the moment feel even more transcendent. Many viewers are deeply moved by it. Some even say it's the music of their lives. But if you actually understand what the music is about, it becomes rather absurd. The piece is from Act the Third of Mozart's opera, The Marriage of Figaro, in which the Countess and her maid Susanna join forces to write a fake love letter.
Write a line. In a garden where a gentle breeze blows.
What a gentle breeze!
It will blow this evening.
Under the pine trees in the forest.
Under the pine trees?
I mean, in the forest.
He'll figure out the rest.
I'm sure he'll figure out the rest.
Their goal is to expose the Count's infidelity and publicly humiliate him by tricking him into an affair. So the aria playing in the background is about two women conspiring to seduce and disgrace a man with a forged love letter. Once you know that, Red's narration feels completely misleading, even like a poetic scam. But it doesn't really matter. Hardly anyone knows what the lyrics actually mean. Nothing amplifies pleasure more than illusion. Red, the inmates, the audience, we all fell into that dream. We soared, enchanted by a fantasy that felt like paradise. That's how a piece of music becomes the soundtrack of one's life. I too was fooled by Red's narration. Like the inmates of Shawshank, I found the music unspeakably beautiful, so free, so blissful. And for a moment, I forgot who I was, where I was. I believed every word Red said. It's said that this part was created by director Frank Darabont, who was known to enjoy this piece of music. He believed the music could serve as a symbolic expression of the film's central theme, hope. Originally, the script had Andy turning off the music midway. Tim Robbins suggested that playing the music continuously would better reflect Andy's character. The director agreed and revised the scene accordingly. Darabont surely knew what the opera was actually about. It had nothing to do with birds breaking out of cages or the feeling of liberation. And yet, he deflected the issue cleverly, almost mischievously. That's exactly what Red's narration does at the beginning of the scene. I still don't know what those Italian ladies were singing about. The truth? I don't want to know. Some things are better left unknown. It's a filmmaker's sleight of hand, a deliberate choice to let fantasy override reality. In a novel, where plot coherence and narrative accountability matter, such a maneuver wouldn't fly. So, these scenes don't exist in the original novella. 9th, Tommy's fate. Tommy, the one person who could have proven Andy's innocence, is not killed in the novella. Norton, wanting to keep Andy under his control, tempts Tommy with a transfer to Cashman Prison. At Cashman, the inmates pick a lot of potatoes, and that's hard work, but they are paid a decent wage for their labor. If inmates desire, they can attend a pretty vocational and technical institute. On the weekends, there is a chance to build a model airplane with his kid, to go on a picnic, and to have sex with his wife. Compared to Shawshank, it's heaven. For Tommy, with a 3-year-old son and a wife who visits every weekend, could there be a sweeter offer? Especially at that time, Andy was locked away in solitary confinement. Tommy grabs the opportunity without hesitation. Though the cunning Norton is a hypocrite, the novel's portrayal of him as not a murderer seems more reasonable. The issue could have been resolved administratively. There was no real need for murder. However, I believe the film needed Norton to have Tommy killed through Hadley. It highlights their brutality and the violence of the prison system, driving the audience into intense tension and rage. 10th, get busy living or get busy dying. In the film, when Andy tells Red about Zihuatanejo in Shawshank, Red snaps at him saying, "Don't talk nonsense." In response, Andy delivers this line. Later, near the end of the movie, as Red leaves his halfway house to go find Andy, he recalls Andy saying this very line and repeats it to himself. And Red added, "That's damn right." In the novella, this line appears only at the end. It's spoken by Red, not by Andy. Toward the end, Red, frightened by the outside world and even contemplating a return to the safety of Shawshank, mutters this line almost as a weary lament while deciding to go find Andy, thinking he must keep the promise he made to Andy. When you hear this line, "Get busy living or get busy dying," how does it make you feel? Does it sound like something said in desperation, as if someone has hit rock bottom and mutters, "What the hell, might as well see this through to the end"? Or does it feel like a passionate vow, filled with hope and determination? My future is so bright. I have to live it to the fullest? This contrast captures a key difference between the novella and the film. Personally, I think it's a line that doesn't quite fit Andy's character at that moment in Shawshank. I think that the director may not have fully understood the tone of the original line. In the novella, Andy never says this to Red in Shawshank. He speaks only of hope and of a better future. I believe the novella gets it right, and the film gets it wrong. Andy is not a man on the edge. He's someone who has carefully planned his escape and envisioned a brilliant future for years. He knows what he's doing. So why would a man like that say something like, "Get busy living" or "get busy dying" to the one person he hopes will join him someday? In the film, when Red snaps at Andy, "You are here. The Pacific is the hell far away," Andy responds with trembling emotion, quoting that line. To me, that scene felt wrong. And perhaps the director sensed the awkwardness too. Right after that scene, we're shown Andy's friends at lunch, worrying that he might take his own life. Red says, "Andy's gone soft in the head. There's a limit to what a man can take." I think the director made Andy say that line with a trembling voice to fit the scene. But Andy in Shawshank isn't unstable. He's tough, cool-headed, and persistent. He stood up to the sisters despite his small frame. Andy never wavers or considers suicide right before a perfect escape. The book's version feels more accurate. 11th, Hadley's arrest and the newspaper tip-off. In the novella, Hadley isn't dragged away by the FBI crying like a little girl. The book says he retired in 1957 due to heart attack, as mentioned earlier. Andy never exposes Shawshank's corruption to the press in the novella. There's no finger-pointing or FBI raid. It's dramatic but unrealistic. Still, this added storyline works for the film. It's a good example of how movies differ from reality. 12th, the 6 ladies on Andy's cell posters and their timeline. Andy used a total of 6 posters to cover the hole in his wall. In the novella, the final poster was of Linda Ronstadt, one of the most successful female rock singers of the 1970s. Andy escapes in 1975 in the book, but in the film, he escapes in 1966. So the final poster in the movie is Raquel Welch, who appears in Andy's cell in early 1966. This poster fits well with the film's ending on the Pacific beach. Let me introduce a list of the poster stars in the order Andy used them. Each one marked a chapter in time and in culture. Rita Hayworth, from 1949 to 1955, the classic Hollywood star, and femme fatale of Gilda, symbolizing mystery and allure. Marilyn Monroe, from 1955 to 1960, a symbol of glamour and innocence. This shows her unforgettable pose from the 7-Year Itch, with her white dress billowing above a subway grate. Jane Mansfield, from 1960 to 1961, a blonde sex symbol known for her bold performances and voluptuous figure. In the 1950s and 60s, Jane became an iconic figure in American pop culture. Hazel Court, from 1961 to 1965, the British horror film queen, known for her gothic charm in movies like The Mask of the Red Death. Raquel Welch, from 1966 to 1971, striking a pose in a fur bikini from 1 million years BC. This photo made Raquel a pop culture icon overnight. Linda Ronstadt, from 1972 to 1975, the most powerful female rock singer. This is Linda performing at the New Haven venue on August 16, 1978. It is said she was the highest paid singer of the 1970s. 13th, the place where Red reads Andy's letter. In the novella, the letter is wrapped in a plastic bag. In the film, it's placed inside a lunch tin, also wrapped in plastic. In the movie, Red opens and reads the letter right there at the site, like a free man. But in the book, he's overwhelmed by fear, afraid of being caught or arrested. Anxious to leave before anyone sees him, he doesn't read the letter on the spot, but takes it home instead. Considering Red's long years under the cold watch of prison guards, and the fact that he's now violating parole, the book's version feels more fitting. In the novella, after reading the letter at home, Red put his head in his arms and cried. It's probably because he's overwhelmed with gratitude, knowing that Andy remembered him and still needed him. Personally, I found the book's version far more moving than the film. When I read the part where Red breaks down, I felt a lump in my throat too. 14th. Andy's tool used to make the sewer pipe hole. In the film, Andy smashes it with a rock. But in the novella, there's a hint that he used his rock hammer. It's mentioned that Guard Tremont found the hammer near the hole. If you've ever tried making a sewer pipe hole, you'd know that a rock hammer is far more effective than a plain rock. 15th. The ending scene. In the novella, the story ends with Red overwhelmed by excitement and hope. As he breaks parole and heads out from the Brewster Hotel, imagining the journey to find Andy in Zihuatanejo. But in the film, we can see Red meet Andy on the Pacific shore. It's a deeply moving reunion, not shown with an emotional embrace, but with quiet smiles as they walk toward each other. I found the film's ending even more powerful than the book's. It beautifully captures the sense of a bright future, and the unbreakable jewel-like bond between two aging men, who've shared countless secrets and a rare, deep friendship.